Nakamura. My name is Sage Blake. I'm a wanderer, storyteller, artist and mature. And this time, on Sage After, we've got something that was created apparently in RPG. This is Sonic Brutus. You wanna know how I know that's our RPG Maker game? Not just this tile set, but also the simple pattern of files that were within the zip file. And evidently, this seems to be some hybridization of Scrap Brain. Good to see Shift still works as I think it does. But yeah. Again, this is an RPG Maker game. And as you'd expect, RPG Maker rules. I've dabbled with RPG Maker in the past. I have gimmicked with at least a few different ways of potentially trying to adapt One Soul Fragmented, also known as one of the few stories of Mindless, into its format. It's a very slow process, and to be honest, it's gonna take a while for me to finish that. Like, a long while? Especially with the other types of projects that I've been working on. These included, technically. Yeah, figures that'd be locked. As for what this particular demo encompasses, let's try Sonic Wind. And, of course, you're somewhat of a healer. Actually, no. That's SP. That's a little too pricey, if I may. Because 50 SP to donate 25% SP to another unit, that's a pretty steep cost, and considering the amount of stamina that units have currently, that's a net loss. Sure, it can be useful to donate some of Tails' SP to Sonic, but it doesn't look practical in my eyes. Right, more importantly, this demo is supposedly the first chapter of this particular RPG. It's supposedly gonna go for a lot longer than just this first chapter. Look at that. That didn't do all that much damage to me. Only 10 rings lost. Restores HP, standard revive item, SP, increases defense. Okay, relatively standard items all throughout. Also surprised that I had to walk into the enemy to initiate combat there, as opposed to... Maybe this is being compiled within an earlier version of RPG Maker that isn't like MV or... I'm trying to remember the other one. Shit. Well, editing me is gonna have some homework. VX Ace! That was it! I hate myself! And something tells me I'd better end that attack you've got before things go wonky. Ow. Can I use this pipe for anything? Yeah, with how that diagonal's working, either it's using probably Yanfly's scripts for a modified version of VX Ace. Actually, technically, this could be MV2. Because, if I remember correctly, MV does allow for a whole lot more flexibility in terms of not just combat, but also overworld navigation. Honestly, if I would have known that MV was going to release like a year after I got VX Ace, I would have invested, because I would have held back and decided to invest in MV instead, but them's the breaks. Now that, Tails is getting a whipping. I'm gonna need to find some way to heal. Which, honestly, the both of them don't have. Yeah, you definitely don't have that. Unless you get whacked a bunch in battle, but... oh, no, not a good idea. Right, for those unfamiliar with how RPG Maker-type RPGs end up working, if they allow for battle, because not all of them do, believe it or not, then usually what happens is the following. You have an attack, you have 3 meters to look out for per unit, for the most part. You got HP, SP, and TP. By suffering damage in battle, a unit's tension increases, to which you can use the tension either to initiate specific techniques or otherwise utilize ultimate attacks. Well, that's one way to employ it, rather. Usually, the 3 stats per unit are HP, MP, which in this case was rewired into the stamina, and TP, which I've already explained is what is supposed to be stamina. Oh crap. It's a fairly damaging attack. You know what? I want to tamper with moves for a little bit. I want to see how potent Tails' healing is. So let's see, in special, boundless energy. Crap. Well, that's a piss take. I didn't sandbag enough. Oh well, we'll figure it out eventually. Ow. Pretty forgiving with the save points, if I may. Not a bad thing, honestly, especially since this is the first dungeon of the game. But you could save anywhere, so unless that gets, like, reworked or what have you, one of those might need to be ditched. Up to the creator, though. Right, another thing that's important is formation. Doesn't really matter, honestly. In some RPG Maker games, the creators can rejig formation to include, like, frontline, backline stuff. No real equipment to worry about whatsoever. Okay, it's another critique I might as well give. It's not exactly obvious which direction these conveyor belts are going in. How do I explain this? A whole bunch of sprites within RPG Maker, like, say, Sonic's walking cycle here, are actually 3 sprites that are alternating back and forth between one another. In the order, specifically, of 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, etc., etc. These conveyor belts seem to be using a similar pattern to Sonic's walking cycle and such. Okay, that makes sense, considering it's operating on similar AI in that respect. But it also means that it's a little tricky figuring out which direction these conveyor belts are supposed to be going. I thought this conveyor belt would allow me to go upward, but it doesn't. There needs to be a better indicator, I think, to properly show off which conveyor belts go where. Oh shoot, I want the item. Not great, but it's something. Speaking of not great, I'll probably be skipping some of these battles or otherwise fast-forwarding through them when I get around to editing. Because to be honest, turn-based battles are relatively simple to look at and figure out what's going on. Enemy attacks, I attack, etc., etc. Rinse, repeat until something dies in the face. Because everything has to die in the face, didn't you know? It's a common thing. Let's see. That looks like progress. Let's not go that way, and instead... words not to say in a Sage After video for 600. Play with some balls. I really need to check my tongue sometimes. Okay, fairly standard box animation. The bomb toss animation is new, I recognize that. But yeah, I could recognize a couple of the scripts that might be being used within this, if this is, say, VX Ace or something like that. And if this is VX Ace, well, one, I'll let you know in the edit, and two, I'll also probably mention... Right, if this is being made... As a note, if this is being made within RPG Maker VX Ace, specifically, I'll probably make a note of it within the editing comments. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure this is MV. Again, if this is VX Ace, then I know for certain that the scripts being used are a bunch of Yanfly's free edits. Not again! That's what I get for not paying attention. That's also what I get for, needing to take a small break, I guess. Let's try this again. Although, the break did let me confirm a couple things. This is indeed RPG Maker MV. 1. 2. I called Yanfly was, I called that a script from Yanfly was being used in this. There were other scripts too. My edits will, give the details on that. But at that, I was also able to research something else important. Apparently this little RPG project is not just a last hurrah for MV in between when MV is scheduled to be DC'd and MZ is supposed to be released, and probably further on, but it's also taking into account something from the old Sonic Fleetway comics. And speaking of Fleetway, that is a riderless Egg-Mad. What the Eggy! What, are you not paying attention to your own creations? They're just running amok in your own lab. Sure, this was abandoned by you apparently, but keep a better track of your shit, dude! Check your stuff before someone wrecks your stuff. I mean, that should be common sense for you evil villain types, no? No, but then again, Eggy doesn't really care about much of anything unless it's beating up Sonic. And I accidentally overgrinded, so that boss fight was piss easy. Big Ring! Nice. But first, pick up a shield, pick up some rings, it's a Healy save point. That makes sense. That makes a little more sense as to why they'd be around. I still think they're a bit too generously placed, but maybe that's just me. So what, can I just leave now? Hello, Angel Island. And Suckles. So far, the writing is pretty on point. it makes sense for these characters to be thinking the way they are in this work. Ah, that's it. Huh. That was kind of quick. Again, this was said to be just the first chapter and dungeon, so I guess it makes sense. Oh, hey, they're the plugins right there. Doi. Overall, it's not bad. It could just be my own inner bias against RPG Maker, because it's so annoying to get right. But regardless, it's not a bad RPG. And that's, for the most part, all I could say. So in that case, I guess it's time I return to my void. But again, don't look eat, nah.